Good afternoon. What do you guys think? Did you have an enjoyable and educational day? I'm sorry? All right. We jam-packed 4 concurrent speakers all day long for you. Hopefully you found the right ones. But right now, we have a very special guest, and we're really honored to have the Los Angeles County District Attorney, Jackie Lacey. She leads the largest local prosecutorial office in the nation with a workforce of approximately 1,000 lawyers. That in itself, right? Congratulations for managing that. 300 investigators and 800 support staff employees. A Los Angeles native and a graduate of USC Law School, she's the first woman and first African-American to serve as LA County District Attorney since the office was established in 1850. We also have Sean Hassett. He's currently the head LA County Deputy District Attorney in charge of the Cybercrime Division. In addition to cybercrime prosecution, Sean is an expert on issues specific to public corruption cases, such as misappropriation of public money, conflict of interest, bribery, perjury, and money laundering. There are so many bad people in this county. But with people like them in charge, we're in good hands. So let's give her a really warm Los Angeles welcome, Jackie Lacey.
Thank you for that warm welcome, and thank you for this very beautiful location. I'm so glad you all had it here. I love the Annenberg place, the Annenberg House. I want to thank Richard Greenberg for inviting me to speak tonight. But I want to start my time off with a true story. The other day, my assistant, Zach, was telling me how his parents had asked him to go over to their house for the evening to watch his little brother, Snowball, also known as the family dog, while they were out for dinner. Apparently, his parents didn't want to leave Snowball alone because he tends to make messes while they're away. During the course of the night, my assistant couldn't find the dog and started calling out Snowball's name. After looking for Snowball for a few minutes, he said something to the effect of, "Where is that dumb dog?" out loud to himself. 2 minutes later, my assistant gets a phone call from his dad. His dad says, "The dog usually hides under the bed. Go look for him there. And by the way, don't call your little brother dumb. It's not nice. He doesn't like it." And then his dad hung up. Unbeknownst to my assistant, his parents had a Ring set up, a Ring camera, that enabled them to hear and see everything in the house via their cell phones, and he didn't know about it. I think this story illustrates the point. Be careful what you call the family dog. Someone might be watching you. Actually, the real point is, with today's technology, someone's always watching you. And you have to be on your toes in protecting your privacy. 10 years ago, if you would have asked me where I felt the safest and most secure, I would have told you my office or my home. Nowadays, I have to worry about receiving phishing emails at work or being spied on by Ring at my house. Sometimes my husband and I whisper so that Alexa doesn't overhear us and think we're talking behind her back. In 1999, in order to address this rapid rate of computer crimes, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office created the High-Tech Apprehension and Litigation Team, also known as the HALT Unit. And at the time, investigating cybercrimes was relatively new, so the unit was only staffed by one deputy DA. However, in the first year of operation, HALT filed 10 cases with 16 defendants, and for the next 5 years, HALT continued to work as part of the Consumer Protection Division. In 2006, HALT was renamed the High Tech Crime Unit, and 4 attorneys were added. And the cases filed increased to 36 and involved 76 defendants. At the time, then District Attorney Steve Cooley established a new fraud division and the High Technology Crimes Division, or HTCD, which was solely dedicated to the prosecution of high-tech crime and identity theft, was formed. Now, 2 years later, this division became known as the Cybercrime Division, or CCD, and it had 6 lawyers. Since then, I have doubled the number of prosecutors to 12 lawyers, 2 lieutenants, because we have our own Bureau of Investigations, 3 sergeants, and 12 investigators. I'm not sure if you see a pattern here, but if you work long enough in government, you begin to notice 2 trends. One, we like to rename our work units every couple of years. And 2, we like to give these new work units long-winded names that sometimes create catchy acronyms. And with that in mind, in 2016, my office created the Community Cyber Investigation Response Team, or Community CERT, which targets cyber crimes committed against businesses in the county. The team is also responsible for training more than 500 members of the business community in cyber crime prevention. Additionally, my office has implemented fraud alerts that are directed to the public. And these fraud alerts cover topics like new credit card scams. In these instances, scammers contact people who may be receiving new tap-to-pay cards and claim to be from the issuing company in hopes that the victim provides personal or financial information to activate the card, and then they use that personal information to commit identity theft. Another fraud alert addresses online romance schemes, where a thief creates a fake online dating profile. Aren't they all fake? But anyway, they create a fake online dating profile to lure victims. Once a relationship develops and the crook gains the victim's trust, they request money to pay for an, quote, unexpected bill or an unforeseen trip. There's various other scams my office not only tries to make the public aware of, but they investigate them as well. Additionally, my office's IT division is working diligently to stop online scams with our department, and the county has been informing all of its 100-plus employees on how to detect suspicious emails. With that said, summits such as this are imperative to educating not only business leaders, but government entities as well. Tonight, you're going to hear from Sean Hassett, who is the head deputy of my office's Cyber Crimes Division. He will be discussing what the Cyber Crimes Division does and what types of investigations it conducts, and hopefully enlighten you on how my office is attempting to address the rise in high-tech crime. Sean has vast knowledge of my office and experience not only in cyber crimes, but in the office's Justice System Integrity Division and the Public Integrity Division and other divisions as well. He frequently lectures and has trained other prosecutors and members of law enforcement on a variety of topics. In addition to cybercrime prosecution, Sean is an expert on issues specific to public corruption cases, such as the misappropriation of public money, conflict of interest, bribery, perjury, and money laundering. Additionally, Sean received Prosecutor of the Year Award for 2013 from the LA County Bar Association for his work in prosecuting Robert Rizzo, Angela Spasia, and the Bell City Council members. He also received the 2014 Pursuit of Justice Award from Los Angeles County Association of Deputy District Attorneys. Won't you please join me in welcoming Mr. Sean Hassett to the podium.
Thanks,
Good luck to you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's funny. We all grew up reading George Orwell's 1984, fearing Big Brother and how Big Brother was going to monitor us, track us, and tell us what to think. And now every single one of us voluntarily agrees to be tracked every day with our own monitoring devices that we won't put down or leave for any reason. So we certainly have come a long way. I wonder if they'll still be reading 1984 when in another 10 years or 20 years. Because everywhere we go, as you're aware, you've already agreed. And I know one of you here, one of you sitting there, I read every one of these agreements and I say, don't allow. But the rest of you, you're all allowing it, you all enjoy it, and you're all being tracked constantly. As Miss Lacey has told you, I'm the head deputy of the Cybercrime Division. Miss Lacey has doubled the size of the division. There's 12 lawyers. We've got 17 investigators. We have support staff. We have victim advocates. We are, in short, a full-service division. We can take everything from start to finish with no assistance from everybody else. However, as Ms. Lacey also told you, she created a community CERT, right, which specifically looks for other agencies to cooperate with. Specifically, we're looking at crimes that target the business community. And they involve a lot of cooperation between various law enforcement agencies and our partners in the business community, all of whom are necessary to a successful prosecution. So I've chosen a couple of cases to take a in-depth look at with you tonight. And they're from our community CERT team, and they all took multiple agencies in order to successfully prosecute. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at a business email compromise money mule case. Some of you may have watched the panel earlier, so you may now be experts in the business email compromise. But for those of you that missed it, we're going to give you a in-depth look at one of the cases, and it starts out innocently enough with a completely normal person you would never ever suspect in any way, shape, or form. She's a business owner in Van Nuys, owned and operated 2 businesses, no criminal record whatsoever, led a completely modest lifestyle. There was nothing that would ever cause anybody to suspect anything. Her businesses, business cards. There were storefronts you might walk past. Chim Logistics is to the right. It's a freight forwarding company. If you stopped and you were extraordinarily suspicious, you might ask yourself, that's an awfully small storefront for a freight forwarding company. Where's the loading dock? Where's the warehouse? But perhaps you might say it's just a business front or business office, and maybe the warehouse is somewhere else. And the African store, which is right next door on the left, which was a small specialty store. You go in, purchase items. Everything was completely normal. You would never suspect anything. Now, meanwhile, somewhere in Singapore, a company is falling prey to a business email compromise. And now, the normal business transaction, right? Nobody's sending letters anymore, right? Nobody's sending you a bill. Your companies you're dealing with, they're not putting postage on it and sending you a bill. What are they doing? Your vendor is simply going to send an email to the accounts payable person in your company. The accounts payable person gets it all the time. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, it's a bill from services. I get these all the time. And they, in turn, process it and wire money right back to the vendor. There's no communication other than the emails themselves. It raises no eyebrows. It's something that happens every day, everywhere. Now, the BEC transaction relies on that, as many of these crimes do, as they rely on people going about their business in the normal, everyday manner. Except here, the criminal has either phished the vendor company or hacked the vendor company, and they send an email that appears to be from the vendor company to our victim company. So our accounts payable person receives it, looks fine, and They're going to wire money to the vendor, but there is something that is unusual, and it's what the first thing now it's going to cause you to delete that email, is that every one of these emails says, hey, send the money to our new account. So as soon as you see the email that says send our money to our new account, you're deleting it. You're just going to delete it. If they really did move it to a new account, they will call you. But that didn't happen because they're not going to change their bank account. What you're doing is you're sending your money to what we refer to as a money mule. And they come in different types, but basically their function is to give the money, your money, to the criminal enterprise. And the money mule could be the mastermind, him or herself, could be a co-conspirator to a lesser degree, or it could be an innocent dupe that has no idea what they're doing, well, they probably have some idea, but they're not really involved in the conspiracy themselves. Now, the BEC email. So what does a BEC email look like? It's going to look like, at first blush, any other one you get. It's going to be to your company. You're going to, okay, it's not spam. It's actually directed to my company. All right, and it's going to be from somebody you do business with. Oh, there's our vendor company in Dominican Republic sending us the bill. It's Denaya. We get emails from her all the time. Time to pay Denaya. And the first thing that it's going to say is it's going to say, hey, start sending your payments to this new account, right? And again, right then and there, you hit delete. But that's the first thing, right? Send it all to. And the second thing here it says the new company name is Chim Logistics Company. And it's got an address in Van Nuys, California. Now, your vendor company is in the Dominican Republic, and it is not Chim Logistics. So this is another red flag where, okay, delete this email. It's clearly not from Denaya. But if you're moving quickly, maybe you just send it off. Now, other possible warning signs, and we all look for different things here, but I'm going to show you what like a DA, right, a non-tech guy might also look for in that email. All right, so right at the top, last payment of the year, double exclamation point. How many people who send you bills are giving you double exclamation points? You're not happy to receive that. The last thing you want them is to rub it in your face, double exclamation point. And by the way, last payment of the year, January 15th. They're a little late for their last payment of the year, or they're way early. But clear red flag there as well. Dear all. Come on, this is Denaya, your friend from your vendor company, and she's giving you dear all. That's a form letter. You at least deserve dear Susie, dear Steve, dear John. All right, TILL, T-I-L-L. Right? Abbreviations and misspellings, also clear red flags. This is not your vendor company, but maybe you're like, listen, Hassett, give Denaya a break. She speaks 4 languages. English is just one of them. You only speak one language, so take it easy on her. So you're going to give her a break there. Please advice. Again, the same thing. Instead of advise, tomato, tomato. And my favorite, okay, my favorite. Why are they doing this? It's for tax reconciliation exercise. What would a tax reconciliation exercise be? Other than tax fraud or money laundering, you're going to reconcile your bank account by putting money in a different bank account that you pretend is not yours. Yeah, that would be money laundering most likely, right? So right there, I think that's a confession. Is that a confession? So those are all warning signs. Now, you tech guys are like, forget that. I'm going to the email header. I'm going to find out where this email really came from. So you go to the email header, and sure enough, you know, well, it says, okay, Denaya. But when you look at the metadata in there, no, it's pviegas@kleinman.com sent this, and the IP address itself is from Jamaica. So you are just deleting this. You're not sending money there, please. So you could just cheat your way through, go right to the email header and find out who really sent it to you. Or you can go through the laborious process of analyzing every word in it. So victim company received 6 more requests for payment. This is from February 24th to April 6th. So much for last payment of the year. And this is also true of all your business email compromises, that if you send them a check, they will right away ask you for another check, and another check, and another check, and another check, and another check. In fact, they send a new request every week. And the victim company makes 7 payments. So, Chim Logistics, our suspect's bank account, all of the checks land in there. And it's $1.7 million shows up in that account in 6 weeks. And one of the things we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, well, innocent person isn't dupe, you know. Also, maybe she was hacked as well, so maybe we find out what happens with the money. Well, all of the money immediately gets withdrawn, and I mean all of the money immediately gets withdrawn. 4 or 5 withdrawals every day, amounts of $9,500, $5,000, $20,000, $25,000, wire transfers for $500,000, $200,000. All of the money gets drained out, all wires and cash withdrawals, $0.00 left in the operating account for the company. That's not a real company. So, and of course, one other thing is, were taxes paid on this? Yeah, no taxes were paid on this. So, what are we looking at here? Well, for us, these crimes are all about telling a story, because we pick a jury. It could be anybody. They're not going to have ever heard of a business email compromise or anything like that. So you have to decide, like, what charges are we going to bring? How are we going to present this? There's a variety of different ways. We chose 7 counts of grand theft, 1 for each wire transfer. That's nice and simple, easy to explain. 1 count of tax evasion for not paying your taxes on the stolen money. 41 counts of money laundering, because that's actually what these money mule cases really are, is the money bounces into an account and then bounces all over the world. So all of that money got wired or withdrawn as cash. So where did it go? How do we find it? How do we get the other people? And we also filed a white-collar loss allegation. That's a theft over $500,000, which in this case was easily met. Bail was set at $1 million, because frankly, there's nothing worse that somebody steals $1 million from you, and then the judge asks them to post bail, and they use your money to bail themselves out. It's a little offensive. So we file a 1275.1. It's a bail hold. It means you got to show the source of your bail. Where's your money coming from? So any of the accounts that were used, you can't use them. We're going to seize all of your money. So that white-collar fraud enhancement allows us to seize the money, or any of the money we can find. As you saw, that those accounts were drained as fast as possible. So with most of these, it's like, well, how do you prove it now, right? You clearly, you were ripped off. Who really did it? Is it really that person? Were they hacked? So at the end of the day, while you get great digital evidence, you are going to have to put boots on the ground. People are actually going to have to go out and do old-fashioned detective work, including a 4-location search warrant in this case. Probably can't see it here, but if you did watch one of the earlier law enforcement panels, Sergeant Hish is one of the individuals on this warrant here, and the arrest warrant was also received to be served on the same day. So when you talk about serving 4 warrants at 4 locations simultaneously, and possibly an arrest warrant at another location, it's a huge logistical event, in this case requiring multiple law enforcement agencies and lots of coordination. Obviously, the residence was one of the places it was served at. The businesses, which fortunately were right next door to each other, but still required their own teams. And then the tax preparer. Now, the tax preparer, it's possible they're also involved in the conspiracy. You might go to your tax preparer and say, I just stole $1.7 million and I need a little help. Or you might not. But either way, they're going to have some good evidence for us, and they're going to want us to, give them either subpoena for the evidence, or they're going to search warrants so that they don't get in any trouble. And by the way, you might not know it, but we actually are not entitled to get your tax returns, even though we're the law enforcement agency, we're investigating a crime. We actually can't serve that warrant without the aid of, for example, the Franchise Tax Board, if you're looking at a California tax evasion case, or the IRS, if you're looking at a federal tax evasion case. So we have to get the cooperation from either or both of those agencies before we can even serve that warrant to get those documents. And as I indicated, all of them were served simultaneously. These warrants were obtained on July 20th, and 3 days later, all of them were served. So that's quite an accomplishment, and they all involved multiple agencies: the FBI, LA DA, Orange County DAs, the Franchise Tax Board, LAPD, and LASD all cooperated in this. And what they're looking for is, of course, really the defense on these cases is, look, I was hacked too. I'm a victim just like you. Somebody, went to my account, but I'd never enjoyed that money. You don't know who got it. You can't prove that I got it. It was all taken out in cash and wired to other countries. So what are we looking for? So we're looking for even basic stuff right here. A fictitious business name statement at the suspect's house for Chim Logistics, right? Because maybe you say, that's not even my company. I don't even own that company. Also, a tax return from that business, not for the amount. This one here, what was it, $40,000? Yeah, $40,000. Bank statement. In this case, this particular one shows the wire, or one of the wire transfers, laundering the stolen money. One of the checks for $9,500, also laundering the stolen money. What we refer to as P&Os. In this case, another the date of another one of the cash withdrawals. More P&Os. And as you can see, 150,000, 120,000, 50,000, 20,000, 19,000, 8,000, and we're talking 4 or 5 withdrawals every single day. Now, at the business, sort of the same thing. You're finding more, in this case, like the lease agreement, right? Whose name is it in? Yes, that is, in fact, your business. Proof of publication here, where you published that this was your business, comes back to you. Again, another tax return, this one for $28,000. When we know that you made at least $1.7 million that year. More P&Os at the business to... many of the people were relatives, so a lot of the money went to relatives. Last year, she agreed to plead guilty. She admitted 3 counts of grand theft, a count of tax evasion, and admitted the white-collar fraud enhancement, and received 10 years in state prison. And, of course, restitution was ordered to the business and to the California Franchise Tax Board. So the taxes owed are $200,000 on that as well. But yeah, things like that. So you're looking for the lack of a business ledger as well. So there's a lot of things that don't show up there, like a business ledger, anybody that you've ever done business with, any actual deposits into your bank account showing any business ever being done there, any, like I said, even just a loading dock or a van or something that shows you forward freight anywhere. I can't stress it enough, really, on these cases, collaboration is the key. The FBI, the Orange County DA's office, the DOJ, the FTB, LASD, LAPD, and a host of our business partners really made that possible, because it was a huge investigation. Obviously, I gave you the highlights and did it in like 20 minutes, but this was this was years. And each one of these played an integral part in our prosecution. The second one, also fascinating, also a community cert case. So again, it's a business falling prey. In this case, it was the banking industry, and this is fascinating. I'll tell you, I never even heard of synthetic identity theft. I didn't know what it was. I mean, and it means exactly what it says. This identity theft, these identities are just completely fraudulent. They're just fake. Our suspect created hundreds of fake identities. he also created fake businesses. And so what does he do with his fake businesses and his fake people? Well, he has his fake people go to his fake business and receive fake services. And, you know, his fake customers don't even actually have any money, so they need credit. So he gets real credit from the bank, from both the business and for the customers to take care of those fake charges. And it resulted in a loss of about $1.7 million. And this also went on for years. And it took a ton of work. And the whole thing was just made up. Everything you thought was real wasn't, and it was for the sole purpose of asking banks to do what they normally do. Just like on the BEC. Our accounts payable guy, he normally gets these emails. He normally sends off payment. Well, the banks, what do? Right? They extend credit to real customers. That's what they do. And what do? They do the same thing for businesses. They give loans to businesses to keep them afloat. So you're only asking banks to do what they already do. And so banks aren't really looking for it, that this is going to be just a big fraud, at least not initially. So the fake business, right, the banks think, hey, you have an office somewhere. And by the way, I think it's possibly a shout-out to Mom. I don't know, maybe his mom always wanted him to be a dentist, but all of the fake businesses he created are dental practices. And he was very successful as a fake dentist. So the banks think you have customers walking into your place of business. But, this is more of a virtual office, right? So he does his online applications, right? And he puts down the address to a building that has a bunch of businesses in it. And, so he's got his virtual office set up. He's got a phone number. There's a receptionist there. You call. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, he's with a customer. No, he's out right now. No, I can take a message. You drive by. It's there. It says there's a dentist suite behind that door. Now, it's not quite the virtual office, except that it's got carpet on the floor. There's 4 walls. There's a ceiling, but there's no dentist chair inside. There's no dental instruments. There's no actual dentistry being practiced. So the fake business, right, needs its line of credit with the real bank. So he fills out the application. There's a lot of PII on these slides. Like this one here is deliberately blurred out. There's nothing wrong with your vision. Also, other slides you'll see where it's blacked out, but so sorry we can't publish the presentation because it does have Social Security numbers, tax ID numbers that actually are real, just not real in this context. So he makes up a business name, and he uses that real address of that virtual office. He makes up a name for his dentist, and then he uses a real address that comes back to a P.O. box. He's got to get his checks. He's got to get his mail. So it comes back to that made-up dentist name at that UPS store. He uses a stolen or made-up tax ID number. And this was actually quite ingenious. He uses a stolen business license, but it's always a stolen business license of a dentist. So if you were to look at it, it would show that, yeah, that business license is associated with a dental practice. And he uses a stolen Social Security number. And this is also genius because he doesn't just use any stolen Social Security number. He uses one with really good credit. So the ones with the best credit, he makes the dentists. And then others he uses as customers. So his fake customer, right? Again, the banks think real customers going, getting a cleaning, although really with the bills he was sending, a full tooth replacement I think must be what it is because they were outrageous. But anyway, right? He's really just creating fake customers for these services. And for example, here, you see a fake customer, totally made-up name. Again, they use a real Social Security number. And this one fake identity, this one right here, $20,000 loss to the bank on one of the fake IDs, and he made hundreds of them. So all these fake customers are out there charging for fake, non-existent services. We get bills, right? He generates bills, fake charge for fake services, and the bank pays out on them. He sets up direct deposit, right? So the bank automatically just sends that money to the fake dentist's office. And again, he actually makes some payments on his fake customers' bills. So you get your Visa bill, right? You spent $5 grand, and they're like, hey, pay us $20 and all is well. Now you're like, I'm not doing that because it's 21% interest. He doesn't care. The fake customer doesn't care. So he makes a payment, which does what? It causes the bank to think, this is real. This person exists. He must exist. He just sent me $20. Which does what? It buys time before the bank figures it out and allows him to make up more fake customers to visit his fake business. It's a fantastic job. And then he has runners go to the bank to make his withdrawals. So the applications were all online. Everything was all online. Everything is virtual, and everything is a fake identity. And now he's got runners going to the bank. Who is this guy? Is it a guy? How old? How young? You have no idea. So these checks, and here again, $5,500, $5,000. This one's for a refund, $5,000 for a refund. And eventually, though, they go into default. The bank sees a pattern here, and they shut it all down. So instead of taking the money and running, though, and living a fabulous life somewhere else, he does what? He doubles down. Of course he does. He starts another business, another dentist practice, and he does the whole thing all over again. New fake business with more fake customers. The bank has no idea that the new fake business has any ties to the old fake business and that any of it's a scam. And it just goes on and on. And I'll tell you, he does a heck of a job, right? So he's creating these synthetic IDs, right? He takes a real Social Security number. And by the way, it's one of my favorite things. I don't know what it is. I can never remember the name. But every night they've got that ad that runs like, hey, we'll search the dark web and see if your Social Security number is there, and we'll let you know about it. Well, what good is that going to do? And by the way, I'll save you the time. Your Social Security number is on the dark web. So is mine. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not if you're going to be the victim of identity theft. It's simply when are you going to be the victim of identity theft. So he uses these Social Security numbers, just makes it, and then he pollinates the account. Because not all of us have good credit, but he needs them all to have good credit. So he finds a company that does exactly this. They pollinate accounts. And what is that? Well, anybody with good credit can add anybody with bad credit to their account. And after several months, you all have good credit. So now everybody has good credit. So for a low, low fee, he can take those fake customers and give them all good credit. Yay. Right. So all of this also, right, it's great. You could tell that this is fake. Banks have been scammed. But who? You have no idea. So this requires surveillance, surveillance teams, all sorts of actual police work, and they narrowed down to a few suspects, and they see their suspect. They find out he's got a storage locker because he goes in. He's in there for a couple of hours, and they develop some more leads, and they narrow it down to the point where they're able to serve search warrants, and they go into the storage locker, and he kept great records. Thank goodness. So there's mail in the name of the fake dentist in his storage locker. There's a sack of cash. And who doesn't have a sack of cash laying around? But your sack probably isn't $189,000. fake Social Security numbers, fake California driver licenses. And even though it's a distance, you can tell by the same shirt that this is the same photo or multiple photos being used multiple times. But all sorts of, and many of those in the runner's names, also in the dentist's name, actual credit application from your fake customers in there. So, and a blank check from the fake dentist's office. Sweet, right? You would trust that, wouldn't you? Sweet Smile. I would go have my teeth done at Sweet Smile. A money order to the, ironically, the probation department in his name. Mail in his name with his actual P.O. box on it. His copy of his CDL. Then at the house, which is also not in his name, we search that. And we find, again, the credit applications. We find mail in the fake customers' names. We find statements from the fake customers. We find his mail. And ironically, his mail from his girlfriend in state prison. His temporary driver license. There's an Escalade at the house, also not in his name, but when you go inside, the insurance is in his name. You've got bills in his name. You've got more. Actually, of his, he has several. Losing my mind. Fake invoices, fake requests for payment from his fake customers at his fake dental practice. At the Challenger, one of the cars was in his son's name. I like to think that he bought the car for his son. You suspicious people may think that he's just again trying to hide the fact that it's his. But in it, the insurance is in his name. And I still maintain that you buy insurance for your son. You would do that here. But sadly, I might be wrong. Oh, I went too fast there. That last one was fascinating. It's a letter saying, we haven't heard from you about your claim that the car has been stolen, so we're going to treat it as you're abandoning your claim. For the car that's parked in the driveway, which was rather ironic. And more sales drafts from the non-existent dental practices. The car he was driving at his arrest, because like the last one, again, you try to hit them all at the same time, and the last one was a total success. This one, he actually drove away from the house before they got there. So they're like, where is he? Oh, my God. So they had to find him, which they did, and in the car he was driving, which, again, was not in his name. You've got paperwork in his name. You have receipts. You have a ticket in his name for that car. And best of all, you have his driver license in the center console with 3 credit cards, one in the name of each of the 3 dentists that he had most recently used for these dental practices, and then a bunch of gift cards. So that really was a fantastic piece of evidence. I mean, each dentist, like, literally right in order. Like, oh, look, our first dental practice, our second, our third. So that was nice. And then, as you might have already suspected or wondered if we had done, well, didn't you bother looking at the IP logs, right? Because the banks actually keep fantastic records. So where were these accounts created from when he created his online accounts, when he went online and he did all of his business? What IP addresses were used to do this business? Well, our search warrant return showed that 4 of the IP addresses came back to where? The house he was staying at that was not in his name, but the house where he resides. And we thought the evidence was pretty good. He thought the evidence was pretty good. He pled open to the court. That's the old, I throw myself on the mercy of the court. He pled, and the judge gave him 13 years. Now, I have good news for you, though. Although we got 13 years, remember, this is a nonviolent crime. So he is basically ready to be released now. So any of you that would like to hire this hardworking gentleman, he will be on the street in days. And let's see. Okay, all right. I'll do this one. This will be super quick. I added this one in. It's a SIM card switch, only because there was one in the news about 3 weeks ago. There was the Apple employee, right? His whole life savings, like $1 million, were just stolen from him. And, you know, he's like, oh, my God. So they just had this on the news. We had one of these last year, right? Because here, you know, this is what you believe your phone is, right? If I asked you what your phone is, you'd be like, well, that's my phone right there. But what is your phone really, right? Your phone really is, it's your SIM card. That's actually what your phone is. And where does all that magic happen? It happens at the phone store anywhere, in any mall, anywhere, any one of those kids that's working there. You just say, hey, you know, I want that new phone. And can you just transfer it over? Sure. And they put it on your new phone, everything. You don't have to enter any data. All of it just transfers over. Well, where do we know this problem is going? What do we know happens next? Right, on December of 2017, our suspect went in to the bank, and he said, hey, I'm the director of this very well-known charity, and, you know, you're my bank, and my bank account is here. And it was true. That charity did have their bank account at that bank. And he produces, right, they ask him for ID. He produces a Washington driver license, a debit card, a Social Security card, all in the name of the account holder, that director for that charity.
It wasn't ISSA.
Yeah. You notice we like black everything out in terms of here. Like, so we do appreciate the fact that people are willing to notify law enforcement, but you know, obviously it is a little embarrassing if you get hacked or become the victim of fraud, right? So he asks for a $494,000 wire transfer to Hong Kong. You know, now the suspicious bank manager just didn't do it right away. I don't know what's wrong with people these days. So smartly, she compared the signature on the Washington driver license with the signature on file. But it looked pretty close. It was actually, she couldn't tell, she couldn't rule it out. She's like, uh-oh. But good news, the director, right, he has, oh, by the way, why might she have been suspicious of our suspect? That really is the way he looks. So, he has two-factor identification, right? So she sends a code. And a minute later, he's like, no, your code is 1234. And she's like, darn it. So she gave him the money, wired the funds to Hong Kong. And there he is, happy, walking out of the bank, looking as crazy as ever. And it, of course, all immediately disappears, and the bank can't get it back. And, again, that would be the end of the story. Except he can't stop. So, in New York, he gets stopped for buying a lot of, well, not stolen, but legitimately or illegitimately purchased printers using a fraudulent credit card. And they search him, and he has multiple fraudulent identities, including our poor director of the charity in his wallet. And so, I mean, like, again, that's just great evidence when you're talking about as a guy who did it. He did it. So, you know, digital evidence is great, but at the end of the day, if you could go, yeah, I found all that on him, you're looking pretty good. Now, a search of his phone, though, right? He's got the wire right there. He's got a screen capture of it on the phone because we just can't put our phones down. We don't ever want anything to do. We never want them to go away, and we always go to the phone store and we say, yeah, just put everything, just transfer it over, right? Now, he confessed. And he says he's a part of a fraud ring, a Russian fraud ring. He said that he received $33,000 for his part. I can't tell you if that's true or not. I can just tell you that's what he said. But, you know, you think about it, right? He's in Los Angeles with us. He's in New York with them. There's money going to Hong Kong. He says he's a part of a Russian group. I mean, look, this is the world we live in, right? You know, you've got a company in Singapore doing business with a company in the Dominican Republic being ripped off by somebody in L.A. County. And by the way, think about that too, right? The business has to report it. Who are they going to report it to? Are they really going to report it? You got to suffer the embarrassment of it. As you could probably guess, that is a huge company making tons of money. $1.7 million would kill most of us. But you know, that company, do you report it? Do you not report it? And then does anybody do anything about it? So you're probably safe being here in L.A. County ripping off somebody in Singapore, or maybe not. But all of these are so fluid and cover so many different countries. They make prosecution really has to be a team effort between both the business community, law enforcement community, state, federal. So he says, look, I just went and impersonated the director at the phone store, and they put all his information on my phone. And it was that simple. And that's what that was the story 3 weeks ago. The guy doesn't know how it happened, but all of a sudden he got no service on his phone, right? It just says no service. If you see that, and if you actually have any banking information or any money anywhere connected to your phone, you need to call immediately to your bank, your banking institution, and close down all of your accounts because you're about to be ripped off. And anyway, that's our SIM card swap, and I see I've now used all our time. Any questions or? Yes, sir.
In the previous example, you mentioned that the person got 13 years. What about the runners? You said that there were runners.
Okay, so yeah, in this case, one runner, yes, through other evidence. The others, no, because you have to show that, like, did they know? How do they know? Right? Hey, could you just go to the bank and cash $10,000 check for me? Well, you should probably know. But, you know, our proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, right? We got to get 12 strangers to unanimously agree that we proved our case beyond a reasonable doubt. And all it takes is one of you to go, well, it was only $50,000. Well, so, you know, in this case, we had really good evidence that one of them was involved. As a minor player, he did not have any true equals in the conspiracy. He was the mastermind. I mean, he, as you can see, was incredibly intelligent and incredibly hardworking. I mean, look, I give credit where credit is due. I mean, we may be on the opposite ends, but that guy worked. So, yeah, one runner, yes, the others, no. Probation, I believe it was. You know, again, it's, you know, his part was this part. See, factors for sentencing, it's, you know, did you play, how big a role did you play in the crime? Okay, well, the mastermind is like, that's like the biggest crime we've seen. In fact, that one is the first one of its kind in L.A. County, and we believe it's the second one in the United States that's been successfully prosecuted. So, you know, how big a role did you play, right? Well, okay, well, for our main guy, I was like, oh, my God. And it went for years. Like, you probably couldn't see the dates on some of those things, but that was going for years. If he had just taken the money and left, he'd have gotten away with it. You know, like, it's greed that keeps them all coming back. So, you know, how culpable are you is really something like that. What's the loss? You know, is there restitution? You know, now he did have $189,000, but that's nothing compared to $1.7 million. You know, generally your criminals will tend to burn through their money pretty much as fast as they get it. So restitution is probably not going to be there. But if you did pay all of it back, the judge would be like, oh, my God. And probably the victims would be like, please give him probation and let him pay us back. And then it's hard for us to say, don't pay them back, send them to prison. You know, it's like, well, Judge, he deserves prison, but he's willing to pay all of them back, and all of them really want to be paid back. And so sometimes you'll see much more lenient sentences that you would not see if they pay them back. It really changes the dynamics of the prosecution. If you can say, well, there really wasn't any long-term harm or any lasting harm because restitution was paid. Yes, sir. Right. He would steal, like, you know, like my dentist, your dentist, business license number, put it on there, and you know, like good detective work could lead you. You could follow up. You could call. Hey, are you now with Hassett's dentist practice? What? No, I've never heard of that guy. But you know, many dentists will collaborate together, right? You'll have multiple. Yeah, you know, a lot of times it's just they're not checking. I mean, you know, I'm not calling anybody out here. I'm just, you know, if they had the time to process all of them, yes, you know, like, come on, there's no actual, how can you have a virtual dentist office? The patients have to go somewhere. They can't go to your living room. You're not going to be doing it on the couch. It was a really elaborate scheme. You know, like we can't say with the first case, like who was the mastermind, who started it. We can just say that she laundered $1.7 million, you know, and did so, again, quite smartly, right? You have a storefront, two storefronts, in fact, right? Right side by side. Now, so outwardly, it looks fine. Now, not having any business records for any business that you legitimately conducted is a problem. But outwardly, it looks fantastic. So the email, the IP address you saw from the first email, and actually from all of them, although I didn't show you all of the emails, Nigeria. She is a Nigerian national, you know, not that that's necessarily anything, but and many of the wires went to Nigeria. You know, at the end of the day, though, we're like, look, it was not a mistake. That's 1.7 that you laundered. I mean, you know, and by the way, we found the checks in her place, so we suspect, you know, that many of the checks were just her walking into the bank, but, you know, you can't go back. You can go back a week or two, but you can't go back, you know, several months. Anyway.
1.7 million, the magic number?
I know, right? What is this? No, we will take your cases for much smaller. This was less than $500,000 here. But I think what it is it makes you so angry. You're like, well, okay, we lost $30,000, but you know what? We can't take the publicity. We're not calling anybody. We lose $1.7 million. We're calling somebody. You know, so I think that's more what it is. I mean, because we're willing to do it, and we've got smaller losses. If we had more time, I was going to show you a county cert. A county cert investigation where the L.A. Superior Court got phished. 500 different L.A. Superior Court addresses were phished. And so county cert's much like community cert, but oftentimes, like, we'll do the whole investigation ourselves because it's the county. So, like, the county CEO might call Miss Lacey, for example. It's like, okay, we're on this one. And, you know, we'll see where it goes. And that resulted in a guy in Texas being arrested. And it was actually fairly elaborate as well, but he made some stupid mistakes. In that one, everything was nice, but he had originally managed to get himself into a couple of, I think it was 2 or 3 accounts. And then from those accounts, he then would send test messages out to see if they were working, if he could sort of, as we say, weaponize the accounts. And he stupidly also use them to email some of his other accounts that actually come back to him. So we're able to get, like one, we got a little chat that he gave his phone number in. We Googled it. It came back to Texas, to this LLC in Texas with his name on it. Little things, those little teeny mistakes that, you're able to come across, but that are incredibly difficult to find. And it's just one of those things where you just, one piece of data leads to another piece of data, leads to another, to another, to another. And sometimes you just get lucky. And it was just, it was our, well, I'd like to say it's our hard work. But some people might say it's sort of dumb luck that the guy used, the guy included his own Gmail account or one of his Gmail accounts in his test emails. Anyway, any other questions?
Do you get much cloud fraud?
I don't know. I don't know. We for these, we get what's reported to us. I haven't really seen anything coming through the cloud. Now, remember, we're the LA County DA's office. If it's coming from the cloud, it's probably going to be something, more going to the FBI, at least initially, because they just have better jurisdiction than we do. For us, we're looking for somebody in LA County. Somebody, you have to have some connection to LA County. So our Texas guy was fishing LA County. That's where all of his stuff was going on. We did the investigation. We could grab jurisdiction for that. Or our suspect on the BEC, she's in Van Nuys. We get jurisdiction on that. Same thing with the synthetic ID theft. That was all actually just happening right here. But most of these are all over the world. I mean, they're all over the world, and it's all happening, like that, because it's just an email. It's an online application. It's something off the cloud. Anyway, thank you very much.